First time I've ever done this.
Yeah, on the phone.
Good evening and welcome to Political Cipher. You are joining us, and I'm the host, Quandra Gaines. We had a little technical difficulty, but we will proceed. So tonight we are going to be talking about. I don't have my script, but that's okay. We're going to be talking about minority businesses, MBEs, on the state and local levels. And we have Mr. Joseph Gaskins and other guests who are signing in. So, Joe, I'm going to need you to be the co-host tonight, just in case I do go in and out.
Okay.
So today we're going to be talking about MBE, the local and state, how there are barriers for MBEs, how there are inequities, and how minorities get contracts in the state, the county, and even in Baltimore City. So I'm going to have to pull the questions up, but give us a brief synopsis, Joe.
Yeah, we talked. Let's go back to last week when we talked a little bit about the MBE program, or what others refer to the program as a diversity program. Over the years, the name has changed to accomplish a couple of things to make it more inclusive for other individuals to be a part of it. And so the MBE component of it was moved to it took on a different name and was called diversity program to avoid challenges. But the history of the program is it's a program that was, see, we have Patricia's on, we've got Lisa's
Yes,
on.
good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm talking to you from my phone because my computer just crashed.
We make it work. And I think, Patricia, you said you were going to come on your phone.
Yeah,
too,
the phone. I'm doing the phone as well.
Okay.
I think you're all having technology problems. I'm in the car.
Okay. We're going to make it work. And with Quandra, what we're just talking about is the MBE program,
Yes.
or the diversity program, as it is known. Depending on who.
Hi,
and when you.
Miss Plummer, how are you today? Can you hear me?
Patricia?
I can hear you.
The program, Quandra, was started in 1969, I think, by President Nixon's executive order 11458, creating OMBE, which is a acronym for the Office of Minority Business Enterprises. Surprisingly, you would expect that the program would have started under a Democrat, but it was started under a Republican president. And during that time, in 1969, it was approximately 323 business enterprises. And the size of the program was about a $10.6 billion program for minority businesses. Now, over the period of time, state programs became a part of the program. And since we're talking on this show about the state of Maryland, we refer to the program that the state of Maryland set up. Now, the state of Maryland's program was set up in 1978. And its program in 1978 was set up through the Maryland General Assembly. There, Senator Bucky Trotter, who was our senator from Prince George County at that particular point in time, created legislation which was passed that started the Maryland program. And it directed 70 participating state agencies to make every effort toward an overall minimum goal for programs. This program has been expanded now to 29% of the total value of procurement contracts that go directly to prime contractors or have been mandated by the state of Maryland to go to MBE firms, certified MBE firms. Certified MBE firms are firms that are certified by MDOT in the state. For those who don't know what MDOT is, that's the Maryland Department of Transportation, which oversees the most money that any state probably receives, and it's for highway and transportation projects. But if the states don't meet those goals and they are challenged, the state can then lose their entire budget, transportation budget, if they don't meet those goals. Well, we know that's not been happening. It's not happened at all over the years, and as recently as the creation of the 29% goal under Governor Hogan, we found out that none of those goals were being met. Out of the top 22 state agencies, out of the goal of 29%, the state average is a little over 14%. Less than 50% of the anticipated dollars going to MBEs have not gone to them. We've totally been shut out. And furthermore, reviewing the top 15 state agencies that did over 100 million in annual contracts, they collectively averaged 14%, less than 50% of the state's 29%. And the Maryland Department of Commerce, Office of Tourism Development, and the Maryland Tourism Development Board, under Kelly Schultz, who ran for governor in the state of Maryland, the agency she was placed in charge of, which was Commerce, had a goal of 29%, but she was only doing 3% when she took over the agency. Now, all of these individuals running a campaign indicating that they were all going to do great things for MBE firms. And when they were doing extremely poor, horrible in terms of percentages. Now we go one step further to 2020, the annual report of the Governor's Office of Small Minority Business Affairs, which was formerly known as GOMA. After Secretary Schultz had been in office, her numbers improved. And when she leaves office this time, her numbers are 9%.
You are kidding.
9%.
Wow.
9% of the MBE procurement actually go to minority businesses. This is not African American business. This is the overall pool, which includes white females, a ton of individuals, Indians, Eskimos, South Islanders.
So just reaching the goals wasn't a priority for her agency at all, but she wanted the state.
She didn't even think twice about meeting those particular goals and putting her name up as a candidate to run for the state's highest position as governor. Now, I guess we as minority individuals were supposed to just make an assumption that these individuals could be given a pass, because we certainly gave it to Peter Francho. Francho, who often sided with Republican Governor Hogan on matters on the Maryland Board of Public Works. And for those of you who don't know what the Board of Public Works does, the Board of Public Works is an agency that approves every contract that comes from the General Assembly or from agencies. There's three people who sit on that: the governor, the treasurer, and the comptroller. So in January 2019, on two particular contracts, one was at the University of Maryland, and it was seeking the Board of Public Works approval for two advertising contracts valued at $250 million each, totaling $1 billion. totaling $500 million. What was perplexing was the lack of any MBE or WBE procurement requirement. The University of Maryland received a waiver, even though Maryland has mandated a goal of 29% for large-scale procurements. Now, in doing so, Comptroller was present that day, and when this was awarded and approved, and he voted and approved this injustice without asking a single question. This caused over 150 million in potential lost revenue. Peter was not sensitive at all, and he approved to allow that contract to move forward without any MBE goals being achieved. Now, further with the state, what we know and have seen that there was an emergency sole source bidding waiver condition that was placed on all COVID-19 purchases. The amount of money that flowed through the state of Maryland, which required emergency relief, and the emergency relief was you can do a sole source award, and you don't have to include MBEs in any of that money, was a substantial amount of money that flowed through, and it still has not been audited to see who that money went to. Now, furthermore, in Prince George County, and Patricia, you're well aware of Prince George County, we all are. They have a diversity program too. Now, Prince George County's diversity program is less than the goals of the state of Maryland, and they have been doing very poorly as well. They have not achieved their minority goals, minority participation goals, since four county executives have been in place. So 4 county executives, none of those individuals have achieved the minority percentage and goals. They allow those contracts to move freely, and Prince George County has a very complex way of doing things. They have allowed money to go to county located businesses, county certified businesses. Those are not African American business or minority business. They're just certified that they're in the county. A county-based business is a business that's not even certified, period. It just happens to be located in Maryland, but in Prince George County, Maryland. But what it does do is take away from that particular pool of money that should be going to MBEs. And over the period of time, 4 county executives, we have lost revenue. We found that there is an attempt to distribute money to individuals who are friends of elected officials. Contracts are not awarded. They're not advertised. Behind the scenes, nobody knows what goes on. Major developers are being given favoritism on contracts. And as recently as this week, past week, after a review by the county council of a disparity study that was commissioned and a requirement, they found that they needed to do something to correct prior discriminatory practices. So they rushed to put in place language for a bill that's presently sitting there. Now, this is the problem with the bill. I got a text coming from county council member at large candidate Mel Franklin, indicating that there was a meeting to discuss MBE participation in that particular proposed legislation. That meeting had a stipulation that that I could attend the meeting as a leader, as an MBE leader, if I paid $250 to come as a participant and $500 if I choose to come as a sponsor of the event. And the event was 25 people who were invited. Nowhere in the history of MBE programs have I seen such blatant and glaring. I want to use this. I know we have not challenged to say that it's illegal, but they just have blatantly misused the MBE program for their own particular purpose. Now, what reason, other than to raise money for his purpose, would you charge amount of money to bring individuals who have a knowledge and a base in minority programs? Why would you charge those individuals to come to your event? I have, over the many years of dealing with businesses and elected officials, I have never seen black on black crime as I've seen under that particular administration. It blatantly and it constantly do that. Now, this is what you have to ask yourself, because we all know the amount of money that's at stake within agencies in terms of procurement dollars, but we are paying for an MBE office and procurement offices, and those individuals are making in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement programs that do nothing for African American firms. So it's a crime.
Joe,
The,
um,
the bill
I'm
passed. The
sorry.
bill passed, but now the question is, what do we do? What positions? Where are we at this particular point, and what are we going to do as an African American business community?
You know, Joe, in listening to your spiel and the discussion about the disparity studies, the disparity studies are to actually prove the need for those minority set aside programs. It ensures that individuals keep a job for the most part. And but what's sad is that the numbers of the disparity studies, which constantly shows African Americans as the greatest, with the greatest disparities in all categories, but other for every industry, but other African Americans are performing behind. That we as voters, as business owners, as advocates, have not held those individuals totally accountable, or we need to seek strategies to how do we hold them, each administration, accountable for those numbers. I mean, encouraging the public and participation from business owners is one thing. We as minority business owners don't have the capital to keep investing in seeking contracts or seeking to participate at those levels, only to not even get shortlisted. So the accountability level of holding individuals accountable, because I don't believe individuals will vote for people that are not really for them. And what I mean by not really for them, they don't know the disparity numbers. They don't understand the process. Mainly when you're looking at the percentage of individuals that are not business owners, you have more uh, people that are not engaged in politics and not business owners. So therefore, how this affect their kitchen table isn't fully understood, and to communicate that so that they can become engaged, because as we see, individual voters will get engaged on issues, on ballot issues, and this is an issue that's a repeat offender from the state level, federal level, to the local level. And we have to begin to dissect why and come up with strategies of how to literally close these disparities, because we as African Americans should not continue, when we are the majority, to cry big, have to plead and still to even be at the table for percentage, to ask for percentages in a state where we are the majority. That's unfair. It's not right. And accountability is definitely needed.
Okay, so I'm going to give one question. I can only be audio. The first question is, are those laws applicable to Baltimore City and other Maryland counties and agencies?
Each county and each agency has to pass a program that's approved by its legislative body. So Baltimore City's program has been structured. A bill was passed, and the president of the council authorized it to move forward to the mayor, and that bill has been in effect even longer than the bill in Prince George County. And the bill in Prince George County was in 1978. Baltimore City was one, and it's not unusual, was one of the first state counties or cities to come on with an MBE program. Prince George County, Montgomery County were the second two to come on with a minority program. A little late on the federal standards, but they came on. Each one of them have the ability to structure a program which are different. The first program to come online in this region was the program in Washington, D.C. under the former mayor, deceased mayor, Marion Barry, and that came out almost immediately after the program, after the federal program. That program allowed for pressure to be put on jurisdictions, and the state of Maryland at that time didn't have a large percentage of African Americans as they are now. So the first jurisdiction with the largest amount of African Americans to put pressure was Baltimore City's. So Baltimore City operates with their particular program. Prince George's operates with their particular program. Montgomery operates with their particular program. WSSC operates with its particular program. The airport operates with their particular program, and none of them are the same programs. Now, any program that operates and uses state or federal money must then operate on the guidelines of the state or the federal government. So those goals and percentages should be the same as the state's government if it's state money involved in any of their procurement dollars.
But each jurisdiction, mainly when you have a municipality, have to prove, that's what the purpose of the disparity studies, that the percentage of African Americans or minorities within that municipality actually have been discriminated against, or for a particular region or county, those same laws won't be applicable. That's why it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, mainly Baltimore, and looking at the percentage of African Americans that they have opposed to Prince George's County. But our numbers should be very close because the density of people is almost the same.
Now, what was interesting, Quandra, is that depending on who the county executive is or was, under Baker's time in government, he relaxed the legislation. And this was on I could have to identify, said this is on a private project, but the county had put an absorbent amount of money into the project. And I say that in about $100 to $200 million that were invested as county money in TIFs. So in lieu of doing that and achieving a fast track on MGM project, a new program was created specifically for that particular project with identified individuals who were now members of a discriminated group. When we looked at those people who were in that group, it was 51 groups of individuals who were discriminated against. 51.
Amazing.
Everybody except for the white guy. Look, and
Amazing.
what's alarming on this one is that MGM is an Asian-owned business. For those who don't know, the owners was Patsy Ho and her
Patsy Ho.
father, who were a part of. They got kicked out of Atlantic City,
Right.
New Jersey. Atlantic City, New Jersey, because they could not prove that they weren't part of the mafia. So they elected to move, but they got welcome arms when they moved into Prince George County. Now I said I would not be alarmed about the fact that their affiliation is whoever they are, but the fact that that company really didn't have to do any minority participation with minority firms, because it was already approved as in that minority group of individuals. But Sharon Baker allowed that scenario to take place and did not put any pressure on anybody at the table. Now, another person that I mentioned earlier who was at the table at that time was, guess who was the chairman of the council at that time? And that was the person I mentioned earlier, who is now sitting as a Mel Franklin, who's sitting as at-large member as well. So we keep putting these individuals in office who really don't care about us. Somewhere down the line, they did a favor for them. They got paid very little money to do a favor, hire a relative, put somebody in place, and then none of the rules and regulations which supposed to help and to empower and grow minority businesses ever get back to minority business people. But the issues that we have to understand as an African American or minority business community is that a continuation of this will render every business in the state of Maryland that's a minority businesses in Prince George County, Baltimore City, basically empowered, and there will be no need to actually to hire any of them if all of the waivers are going to be granted for those companies not to be, I don't use the word force, or required or mandated to achieve the goals that the state and the county put in place. It's like they set the goals and then they says, okay, if you can't meet them, fine, we'll let you go.
The best effort. That language in policy is what the average person don't quite understand. And when you're voting for it, it's not put out there because you get a 30-second commercial, because the average attention span of a person is pretty short. So how it's communicated is something we have to look at in content and literally drill down on those on that, because with that MGM project, MGM had no intentions of actually honoring that. The community benefits agreement that Franklin and put in place under Rashawn's administration was so weak that it was laughable by other areas in the state. And the problem that I have here is Martin O'Malley called back a special session 3 times to push for legislation and gaming to be legal in Prince George's County. Literally, it was one of the worst times that legislators had complained about. Several people had resigned their posts, left politics altogether because of the bullying that took place to pass the gaming legislation. And to look at us as the body and the majority of the members of the Black Caucus and individuals that we elect to represent us, to not come back with a rock solid agreement that protects us, protect what the law says, and not this best effort, not this legislation that says it's good enough for us to say you're going to be at the table for you to vote on, but once the vote passed, it then becomes unconstitutional to put forth. These are the things we have to look at and help the public understand the barriers of why we're not making progress as a group of people to move us participating ahead. That's an issue.
So, did we achieve that proper response to that question? I think there was those laws applicable to Baltimore City, other laws applicable to Baltimore City and Maryland counties and agencies. And I think we did pretty much that. I think one of the things is what goals were created by the state of Maryland for its diversity program. And I think we discussed that and said the present goal was 29% in the state of Maryland. Now the state goals applicable to Baltimore City and other counties, if you're utilizing their any money coming from them or you operated within their footprint, then you must meet those requirements. But on the other hand, you must meet the requirements. But if the parent company, if the parent is not responsive or doesn't care and is not meeting theirs, and we've seen that with the comptroller and the Secretary of Commerce and other agencies on the state level, they said, fine. I mean, we don't mind that we're only doing 9%. We don't mind that on the Board of Public Works that the University of Maryland doesn't have to have any MBE companies at all, and we'll pass that, and it's no big issue. And the sad part about this is we continue to elect those individuals over and over again, and we have no agency that has the power to hold them accountable. I was once told by Jimmy Reed, who is the Secretary of Minority Business Affairs, is that, Joe, what can I do? Well, he's the Secretary of MBE Affairs, Minority Business Affairs for the state.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but he said, my boss is the governor. So if I tell my boss that I don't like the fact that I'm being told to grant a waiver, I'm fired. I work for the governor. So I have to do what the governor tells me to do. So the sad part is that it starts from the top. So if it starts from the state and it goes down, then that same callous behavior then goes directly to county programs, WSSC programs, park and planning programs. All of them just sit in the office, show up, get paid a check, to come to work, don't meet the requirements, and nothing happens until we start holding individuals accountable for the behavior that's destructive to all of our minority business people. And the fact that at this particular point in time, we have major individuals who are elected officials who head up associations, business associations. Darrell Barnes has the Bi-County Roundtable as a delegate. Mel Franklin has another business association that he heads up. I have not in my lifetime seen an elected officials also run minority advocacy entities. My concern is that there might be a tremendous conflict of interest if you run a association and you're charging individuals to be members of your association, which gives a person the appearance that if if I don't pay or if I don't join your association, then you're not gonna give me access to contracts. So a small person who's afraid to speak out, afraid to challenge anything, will just sit on the sideline. So I think what we have to do is step it up the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good time for us to do that, Wanda. And I think what we should probably do, as we do on this show, is to start taking more aggressive actions because we're going to have a governor. We're going to have an African American governor who is going to be wouldn't want to use the word more sensitive, who said leave no one behind, and actually we're being left behind. So I would say that we have an African American governor and we have a lieutenant governor who would be sensitive to doing this the right way. Now, so if it starts from the top and it works down to the bottom, individuals at lower levels who are now county executives will have to be accountable. If they are not accountable, what you said earlier is to use a report card and a mechanism which will showcase them, highlight what their people are doing at central services, to allow that information to hit the media sources,
Mm-hmm.
to alert newspapers, to alert investigative agencies to know that businesses are being used and abused, and there might be a pay-to-play scheme that they're actually operating. Okay, because I don't see them just not moving forward unless there's pressure put on them otherwise to force them to do what they should be doing. Now, I'll stop here because I think Patricia can probably share with you some of the things that she's gone through in her time and with the county. And Patricia, how long have you been in the county?
I've been here 39 years
Ooh.
and owned my company for 25.
So, in your opinion, what can Prince George's County do to improve this program?
Who am I speaking with? I'm so sorry.
This is Quandra. I'm the host of Political Cipher. I'm the one who had the problems with the camera. So I'm on the mic, but I'm on my phone, but it's a really bad glare. So I'm the one who's asking you the questions.
Okay, it's nice meeting you or talking to you as well, and good evening to everyone. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Joe and Bruce Branch knows fully well. I've called them many, many times crying. I've been in this place I've had my business for 25 years. I've been faithful. I have bonding. I have line of credit. And I was at the business round table. My sister invited me last week. And, it's the same old, right? And one of the things that I am noticing, and I've seen repeatedly with all the different administrators, that those that have been elected to office, they promise all these things, but they're not delivering. And what I hear a lot of times is excuses to say minority small businesses are not prepared, to say we're not qualified, we don't have this, we don't have that, and that's why we're not getting opportunity to sit at the table. I believe that is such an untrue statement for many of us because I do have everything. I'm MBE, DB, CB17 certified. Everything they ask you to do, you get done. One of the things that I'm seeing that is a big, big, big problem, when the primes are given the job, they do not reach out to small business to give what's required. What are they required to give to small business? And I feel that that's a big, big issue as well. When the primes, there's a big company that I don't know if I can call the name, they get a lot of work in this county. And I bid on a project at the courthouse, I would say 4 years ago. They took my bid and someone else in New York got that contract. And I was blown away. And I asked them for a meeting and I said, what happened? And they couldn't give me a straight answer. And a lot of these prime contractors, some of them are babysitting the project. They're not doing the project. They're subbing it out to this person and that person. But where is our share? I've been here. I faithfully paid taxes. I don't have any uh, uh, past any in my past that I've ruined anybody, have done any things unethical, didn't do the right work. We are ready to do work, but we're not getting opportunity. And it's like went to the business roundtable, and you hear all this stuff that they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and it's really, really, really discouraging. And MBE, DB, I've not gotten any work. I got one, 3 years ago, I have some work from a prime as a result of being an MBE, DBE. But other than that, it's very rare. And I am trying to figure out, I've called Bruce and Joe many, many times, and I'm like, what is it that I'm doing wrong? And I know other companies that are not getting opportunity as well. And I hear the excuses is that we're not ready, we're not prepared, we're not professional. I really feel that that's untrue.
Thank you. And Miss Winston, do you have a comment?
Is he on? He has a plumbing company. Is he having a problem with his phone? Maybe. Well, let me tell you something about his company since he's not on, not able to get on. He has a plumbing company, and he does business with WSSC. And he had every time he does fantastic work. Every time he does work on the outside. But when it comes to WSSC, there's a system in place, and it's been in place for many, many years where they lowball the bid there, and nobody can really get in because they can never match the low number. And when that company lowballs the bid, individuals at WSSC who are inspectors will then come back and issue them change orders, which will allow them to get their contract price back to where it really is supposed to be. So all they did was to underbid the project, knowing that they were going to get paid the full price by issuing change orders. The other way that they keep minority business people away who do good work is the bonding requirements as well. And on most of those bonding requirements, there is not a need for them to hold that bond on those small projects. So the key behind all of that is to make assurances that you have the desire and programmatic plans in place which will allow for those businesses to participate. This is a company that's been doing business for over 25 years. And they are one of the best plumbing companies out there, but they're being shut out. So the only way he can actually get business is to bid as a subcontractor and to utilize the subcontractor's bond and the prime contractor, use the prime contractor's bond, and then the prime contractor then pays him 30 days after he's completed the project while he gets his money immediately. So we have so many tricks in the trade that makes it so difficult for the small and minority business that they, at some particular point in time, they get frustrated and they say that we are not going to participate in Prince George County's bid process or WSSC's process. And what does that do? That means that when the Minority Business Office does a survey and they put a goal on a project and they see that minority businesses are not participating in Prince George County, then they label the county as not having adequate minority business pool to accommodate the goals that they should be putting in place, which is destructive, because most of the minority businesses that I deal with, they don't even want to do a business in Prince George. They'll go and do business with the federal government, with DC, versus doing business in Prince George County. But when the MBE office in Prince George County pulls its pool of people who competed on projects, they've got this lackluster pool they have of people who have registered there. And so when they look at it and they say they go, okay, well, there are no MBE businesses. The real response is there are no MBE businesses that want to do business in Prince George County. That's the bottom line. So when they push this bill out, and we want to talk about that bill and pull that bill and talk about that bill at a later date, but that bill is going to increase the numbers. But if there's no accountability and no way to make individuals compliant, then a person who runs an agency has the authority to achieve less. Now, in Prince George County, Bruce, who is the director of central services in Prince George County? Bruce?
Say it again?
Who is the director of central services in Prince George County?
Jonathan Butler?
Yes, that's the individual. So Jonathan has the ability to waive, as the other agencies on a state level, to waive the requirements on MBEs, or he has the ability to personally select firms that he wished to select through central services. He can do that, which is, I think, during that particular process, it's a total unfair process. When you shut out some people from the bid process, or you deem individuals who you don't want to participate as being as having an inability to perform, and so they categorize you in that fashion. So the program becomes a program that individuals eventually, who are smart business people, says, I'm not doing this. I'm not putting up with Prince George County. I'm going to walk away from Prince George County and spend my time working in another county agency or in the private industry. And I don't want to be involved in the county process, which then opens all of that county work up to firms that don't look like us, non-MBE companies. And that's where we are now. In fact, 66% of the prime contracts are done by non-MBE firms in Prince George County. Only 13.59% are African Americans, 0.75% are Asian Americans, 7.6% are Hispanic Americans. Native Americans make up 0.03%, and non-minority women firms make up 9.84%. So again, 66% of all the business coming out of Prince George County from their study goes to white male firms.
Wow.
I don't know, what is the population of Prince George County, overall population?
It's like about 800,000 now.
How many, what percentage is African American?
Prince George's County is now like nearly 69-70% African American.
69 to 79% African American population, but 66% goes to non-African American or non-minority firms.
Interesting.
Okay.
Now here's the impact. If I may speak.
Yes, you can.
Joe, are you finished?
Yes.
I didn't want to cut your thought off. What did you say?
Yeah, I'm finished. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's the interesting thing about those numbers that Joe just said. Consider this. If in a county that's overwhelmingly African American, we already see the impact. For years, Prince George's County boasted that it was the most affluent, It was the most richest and most educated African-American jurisdiction in the nation. The impact, we no longer hold that distinction. Charles County now holds, who has been a lot more progressive than Prince George's County, now holds that distinction in the nation. So when you don't give contracts, we lose taxes, we lose the opportunity to hire people from our community. Even the District of Columbia, they have a live here, work here policy. It doesn't make sense, and this is across the board on contracts, grants, everything. It doesn't make sense to me to give our tax dollars and our contracts to people who live outside the county. And here's the other caveat or thing about it. Prince George's County, they supposedly started this procurement highway that's never gotten off the ground. They'll tell you when you go to sessions that there is one. There's no place where you can find the contracts. By the time you find out about the contracts, the deal is gone. And we have a director that has shown himself to be insensitive to the needs of his own people.
And what is that director's name again?
Jonathan Butler.
Okay.
I've even had those people tell me over there. We had a person that had a mass deal that big contracts African Americans don't deserve because we're not qualified. We had a councilman, at-large council person who were doing the MGM that said that African Americans weren't qualified to pour concrete. I think we had one guy that died, didn't he, Joe, while he was waiting?
Yes.
After making promises. So, and then we don't have the system in place, a watchdog in place that will challenge the status quo, for lack of a better word. Joe and I challenged. All we did was send a letter to the county executive, telling them about how terrible this was. And there was an African American gentleman who ended up trying to sue us for exposing what he was doing in the county, and he continues to do in the county. People pay him, major white companies pay him to keep African Americans out. Now, he eats pretty good, but so many vendors such as Patricia, others, they don't get any work.
So what can
Absolutely
constituents?
not.
So what can constituents do to ask for the removal of Mr. Butler?
They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't. I did not stutter once. See, the people, our voters, all they know is, hell, MGM is a pretty place. I can go down there and play ball. I mean, not play ball, but gamble or whatever it is they do down there.
Okay.
All right. And they see all the African-American workers. What they don't think about is that was a $1.2 billion contract that very few African-Americans got a chance to participate in.
Okay.
It was
So what can we do to educate them so that Mr. Butler and Mr. Franklin and others can be removed and more people who are speaking the voice of the constituents are put in place to do the job?
Well, I'm going to give you an exclusive. We've done it before. The only thing I know to do at this point is a lawsuit and some civil action, some civil protests. They're having a big procurement fair down at the MGM. And at some point during that day where the director is speaking, and I've told him if he shows up, he's going to have a lot of business people in his face. And we'll be doing a press conference. We'll be doing a rally, and we'll be giving you more information about that as time goes on.
Oh, that's perfect. Then we can put that on live. But we can actually tape it and get people the information that they need so that people like Mr. Butler can be removed. And hopefully...
He's getting a promotion, by the way.
Well, the thing is that I'm hoping that with the new governor coming in place that he would be removed. And hopefully, maybe, this is just my opinion, that maybe someone, or maybe even establish a board of minority and Black businesses in Prince George County, where they would be advisories to this new governor. That's just my hope.
I think politics would really come into play in that. One of the, West will be the first African American governor. So I don't know how aggressive statewide public officials tend not to want to deal with local matters as a matter of protocol. Nevertheless, I do believe that there's some legislation that we could put in that could help promote African American businesses. One of the things that I used to always say to the former comptroller or the current comptroller who ran for governor, we should have a first chance program whereby people who don't have the past performance can get some of the smaller contracts, so we can show people that we can do the work. That's one way they keep us out. They keep saying you don't have any past performance, so we can't take a chance on you. So we can eliminate that by giving some people some opportunity. I don't think Black folks or minorities are asking for anything that's unreasonable. All we want is an opportunity to fail like everybody else, and we don't get that opportunity in Prince George's County.
Now, is Mr. Butler an appointed position, or is he a state worker?
He's an appointed position.
Which means he could be removed with the new governor.
Not by the governor, only by the county executive. And and to be honest, she hired him from DC, but I don't think, if enough people complain, and I'm sure she's starting to hear the complaints, I don't think she would be opposed to him moving on. And as I said, he is supposed to be getting a promotion. Now, how you get a promotion when you perform so horribly, that's a question for people like Joe to answer, because I have no clue.
So, okay, so Joe, this is just a question for you. So, okay, so if the county executive hired him and she's promoting him, and he's limiting or pretty much omitting opportunities for minority contractors to get bids, isn't there some way that we could educate the constituents in that county to do a report card on the county executive and her disregard to minority businesses and its constituents?
Absolutely. I think we talked about that on an earlier show, and that's the way we have to go, Quandra, is with the report cards. And we will do the report cards on key people who have a responsibility to the MBE community. And that report card we'll air it on the shows, and we'll keep it, and we will look at it quarterly. And when it comes time to run again for office, that report card will follow them. Now, we know that political people are in it for the next possible position that could enhance their career. So the last thing we need is a group of African American business people telling the truth about them, and them having to defend themselves with the Black community. That's not really a good medal to be wearing. But that's what we want to. This is what we want to do. This is the only way we're going to hold them. I want to say, make them responsible to the needs of the African American business community, because nothing else has worked. So if you let them do whatever they want to do, they just do it. They'll be awarded, because 66% of the community are benefiting from the contracts that are not going to the MBE community. And those 66% that are receiving that money are rewarding the county exec, the county council, and the elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
That's who pumps money into their campaign. The African American cannot, and the other MBEs, African Americans out of a 13% of contract opportunities in county certainly can't fund the the campaigns and the money that those campaigns need to operate. Okay, so the only way we really can get this done, as Quandra, is to use what we said we're going to do, is to put that in place and implement it. Now, I think next week we have coming on the lieutenant governor candidate
Yes.
as well. And this is
So-
something we want to put in front of her so that she understands. She's a minority individual. She knows, she goes through this.
Mhm.
She's seen it. And so she needs to know that these are the issues, that some of the issues that we have, and probably our largest issue that we have, to find out how this administration can make a difference. Now, Bruce mentioned earlier that really no governor wants to step down and run a county, but if a governor is committed to the causes of the African American community, then that governor will show the county executive that he means what he says, or she means what she says as a lieutenant governor. And that's what we want out of this newly elected team in Annapolis, the team that will hold them accountable, because minority business community has lost the ability at this particular point in time to be able to control them. They do what they want to do. Bruce mentioned that contract, but there are other contracts like that that were deceptive.
Now, Miss Ellis and Miss Plummer, I wanted to ask this question, and no pun intended, gentlemen. The question that I would ask is, do you think that a more universal state mandated guideline that could be issued, could be set down to all counties, would it be a benefit to the minority and African American businesses, or would it be a detriment if it was universal?
Patricia, you can go first. I'll answer.
I really don't know the answer to that. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So if all the counties did not have their own regulations and it was managed by the state, would it be a benefit to the minority businesses or a detriment?
I think it would be a detriment, because each area, for instance, if it was uniform, Washington County would be getting the benefits, or that Prince George's County would need, but not qualify for, because it's spread it out across the state. So you have to tailor as the law that actually is in place to benefit set asides for minority contracts. That's one of the main reasons it's in place, is because you have to narrowly tailor the need to a specific jurisdiction. You look at Baltimore, with the demographic of minority businesses and minorities are not the same as Anne Arundel, Washington County, or other areas within the state. Our needs are different in Prince George's and Charles. So therefore, we should be able to tailor contracts and procurement and educational needs directly to where those needs are required. And one of the things that the disparity study did point out was that communications was a big barrier. The timing of notification to businesses as to when procurement opportunities exist. It's a major problem. Like Bruce is saying, by the time a business finds out, the contract has already been awarded.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we have to look at all of the barriers that are preventing us, and we have to follow the money. If we follow the money, we'll see that 66% that Joe is referring to in the disparity studies do contribute directly to those contractors. So individuals like Brown, who's taking orders from the county exec or the county council, who needs approval before moving forward, his job is at jeopardy, or basically, he's looking at how did he protect the work and the integrity of the office at the same time while trying to remain politically correct. So one shoe don't fit all. It's my point.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, and Mr. Branch, feedback?
I think we're beating a dead horse. We all know what the problem is. A wise person once told me, follow the money. And Prince George's have a long history of people following the money and getting the contracts. Maybe not real proof, but if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, more often than not, it is a duck. And when you do the contracts, here's the other interesting thing that I just thought about. Most people get what's called a debrief. For some reason, Prince George's County don't give a lot of debriefs. Not written ones. They just say you didn't win. Your price wasn't good enough. You look like Joe Gaskins. Any kind of excuse.
Okay.
To come up, and we have the same people getting the same contracts year after year. I had wanted to have them on Cornelius Wood, African American Towing Association here in Prince George's County. They have had very few, like 1 or 2 minorities on the police tow list. And people might say, so what? Well, that list generates millions of dollars every year. And the same people are on it every year for the last 20 years. And none of them are African American. So as a result of that, I would imagine that's happening across the board, And I don't know, maybe Patricia could speak to that. I do know she did some schools and she had some firehouses, but maybe she could speak to the range of contracts that you've received.
Yeah, I was asked to bid on all the fire station in Prince George's County, end up not getting the project. I was asked to bid on projects at the courthouse, didn't get the project. And I called one of the facility director, and I asked him, I said, who are the primes that are being awarded these large projects? Why are they not reaching out to small business to participate in their particular specialties? And he could not answer me straight. And I said, can I get a list of them? Because I felt like if you can't get it directly, where you're not seeing what's coming out, then let's go to the primes that do have the project, like Nardi Construction. I asked for a debrief when I didn't get the project at the courthouse and didn't really get a straight answer. And they get quite a bit of project. I think he told me at the time they were getting 62 million. But how are we, the small business are not getting included in that? So, it's beyond discouraging. When you have everything in order, you have your people, you have good bonding, line of credit, you have everything, and yet can't get to sit at the table to get your fair share of what's being offered.
So what needs to happen to ensure that minority businesses and Black-owned businesses are getting their fair share and can sit at the table? What things do you feel needs to be done?
I think the prime need to be held accountable. The primes need somebody, not sure, systems need to be in place, protocol need to be in place to hold the primes accountable to say, how did you allow small business to participate? Because I know as a small business, I get the solicitation a day or two before it's due.
Wow.
And how in the world do you bid on that? How do you get? We don't have 50 people sitting around. We don't have this and that. A lot of times small business have to overperform, overwork, and
Mhm.
overdo in order to keep the doors open. And we pay taxes in this county, and I've never been called. I get called for emergency project, little small emergency project where they nickel and dime my price. And I get called for those tiny project. But it's same old. I had Gail Bassett, which was working at the governor's office. I had quite a few people that we went to meet people, we talked, um, what's his name, Roland Jones. I mean, I have a list of people I've gone to, and there are no good results. I mean, I do air duct cleaning, I do mold remediation, janitorial, landscaping. They're giving the same people the same company are getting awarded over and over again.
So
The
there's
truth
no
is,
oversight on these projects. There's no oversight on these agencies.
I'm not sure.
Joe?
There is a unintentional oversight on quite a few of these projects. Oversight is not the flavor of the day uh, because they already know who they want to be at the table. And if you want in that group, then you're fine. If you're not in that group, then hey, we really don't want you around. And I think that's quite a few of the firms, or at least Patricia, and I think there was a company that Bruce mentioned, the towing company, uh, who I know personally uh, had the ability and capacity to tow and had been doing it for many years, but was told by a process. Uh, and we met with director of procurement at that time, that he could not, they were not going to have him on any of the county contracts because of an incident that happened with him and the police person who had oversight over the award of the contract. So they were punishing him and his company for an incident that took place. Now, this guy had exceptional record of towing with still has, but they refused to allow him to bid on the towing contract. And we know because I think Lisa was on the line a few minutes ago, but she could tell you that she did the the RFP, the response to the RFP. And the RFP response were identical, with the exception of a few things. It was about a 75, 80 page document in terms of where you had to write uh, a specific plan, safety plan, you name it. And I knew if I had a chance, I would tell you that no other entity that was awarded put that much time into developing that kind of plan. However, two companies were almost identical. The one that was awarded had less information in its package, and then the company that Bruce is talking about. He was awarded the contract, and the other towing company who had more experience, more trucks, more personnel, was told you're not going to participate. And this went all the way up to the director of purchasing at Central Service, and he had he did not have a desire to do the right thing, which was to make a fair procurement award. He let other people's influence his procurement decisions, and that's the bad part about government, is when your people who are hired in place know they're doing wrong, but don't care about this. Now, does he care? I guess he doesn't care if his boss doesn't care. His boss is a county executive or someone under the county executive. If they think he's doing a good job by keeping African American firms out, then what do you do at that particular point with him? Okay, you do as Bruce said. That's one of the things. But my real feeling on this is that everybody falls under one category when you're talking about elected officials, is that they have a desire to remain there. They're getting paid good money to go to those jobs to do nothing, not to do their jobs. They're not doing the MBE component because MBE areas numbers show that African Americans are only doing 16% and even less in subcontracting, 11.8%, and population levels 60 some odd percent. So unless they see them being held accountable, and I mean being fired from their positions,
Okay.
and unless our elected officials who are running for office, again, the next step up when they decide to go, know that we're going to hold you accountable
Okay.
in your next run, and our report cards are going to keep you there. I mean, seriously, exposing them to the magnitude that we stop them from the next step. That's what we have to do. And that's what this show should be about, and shows like this. In order to be accountable to the business community, we have to have, they don't have the accountability mechanism, compliance mechanism in place, then we have to be the compliance mechanism. And that's not, and some of the people that we talked about before, Wandra, with Donnie, Robert Clay, Arnold Jolivet, all those individuals during the time that I worked with over a period of time were very strong advocates, and they were confrontational. You might not like them, but they stood for minority business people. And over the period of time, we've allowed elected officials to come in and become advocates for our business. They don't care. All they want to do is to take it and prostitute the business people. Pay dues, promise you, don't do anything, and you keep looking at them and says, okay, he's going to help me. Help you to do what? He's not going to help you. He ain't going to help you to open up no doors, to get no new business. All he's doing is helping himself. They should be ashamed of carrying that mantle of pretension that they're there helping minority business when they're helping themselves. And they have to be exposed for that so that they know that they will be held accountable for the injustice that they're doing to the minority business. I was sad to read this past week about an individual who was a delegate, Bond, who did some wrong things, who thought he hadn't done any wrong things, but now can't find employment anywhere, has to beg and seek out employment from people to try to get them to hire him. But if you're doing these things and you are not, you're supposed to be helping MBE businesses, there's no way you should be awarded. Now, I'll say this, is that in our conversation that we have next week with the lieutenant governor, that's one of the things that we're going to ask the lieutenant governor to do, is to come and to meet with us on a monthly basis to talk about the conditions that we are seeing in the community. And there'll be Baltimore, there'll be Prince George County, and all those areas that we want to raise complaints about. We'll take it straight to the governor, and we'll call some of those shows. Once you come with us, take it straight to the governor, and let's then have the elected officials to complain about what they are doing and what they're not doing, and then they will be then held accountable, because the last thing they want to see is have a governor who is not going to support them as a county exec or as a delegate or as a senator. That's the last thing. But until they are in a position where they know that there's going to be some repercussion for the action, then they will continue to do that.
Okay, so what I would like to share is, I do know that entrepreneurs, Black and minority businesses, are the ones who hire the returning citizens. They are the ones who are going to hire that youth so that they don't become a squeezy boy. So the investment in education about for constituents to patronize minority and Black businesses is valuable. It's important. In fact, I got my first job from a neighborhood business who invested time in me so that I could do the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a journalist, and she would hire me every day to create her menus and her brochures. So, and I live 2 blocks away. So it's important that businesses get their fair share. If you're going to go through that whole entire process, because I went through that process with a couple businesses that I helped. It's not an easy process. It really isn't an easy process to bid on anything in Baltimore City or even in the state of Maryland. So I applaud each and every last one of you for doing that. But what I would like to do is invite Mr. Branch to give a synopsis of what a constituent should do as far as the county executives in these counties that are allowing the inequities to happen to minority businesses, and what constituents need to be looking for or supporting to make it so that this doesn't happen.
Well, first of all, I believe that the kingdom suffereth violence, and the violence always taketh by force. Power concedes nothing without demands. People have been loath, and Joe and I have been doing this for a long time, to criticize the people in power for lack of, they always think they're going to get some kind of repercussion. The truth of the matter is, we may need to seriously look at the fact that the MBE system needs to be totally dismantled and restructured.
Yes.
Because under its present condition, I don't know if it's by design, it's not working.
Okay.
To give you an idea, the state of Virginia or the Commonwealth of Virginia takes about 15 days to do a certification. On Maryland's website, the state website, it may take several months. Is that intentional so that more minorities cannot be recognized as such? I just thought it was curious. DC takes it in 90 days. The federal government takes it in 90 days. So what I propose is that we dismantle the system, and we do what we always have done in terms of advocacy, write letters, put these politicians, even though the election is over, on notice that, as he said with the report cards, we're not going to do this, but ultimately we will be supporting. I think we should support a major lawsuit, which is going to take money. And but first we got to start calling people out and not be afraid to call people out. I'm reminded of a situation, I think we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, where the young ladies had been awarded a contract. 2 sisters put everything they had in it. Joe and I went to see them, and at the end of the meeting, the meeting went great. They said they're going to help you and whatever. As we were walking out the door, and they had grown up with this particular person who's now a state delegate, she pulled them inside to a side room and said, "You don't need to be with them. They're bad people. They're troublemakers. Stick with us, and we'll take care of you." Well, obviously, they ended up losing their house. They ended up losing, not getting anything done with the contract, even though it had been awarded. And they lost everything they had. And I am convinced, even though I'm not a doctor, that one of the sisters, the older sister, died as a result of the hurt and the pain and the suffering that was caused by them losing that contract, which they had put so much money in. Those are the type of horror stories that people have in this county. And as Joe said earlier, a lot of people just don't want to go through it. They'll come to us and tell us their stories, but what they'll do is say, "We want you guys to go out front and beat the drums, but don't tell nobody I'm involved. People have to begin to stand up. And a lot of these businesses refuse to stand up. When we sued the MGM, a lot of people say they were with us, but they would not show themselves on camera. They would not show themselves to be involved. Now, they supported us verbally, but people would not be vigilant in their action. And sometimes it takes some great people to do a great movement. And we're hoping that God will open the door for us so that we can bring all these businesses out and they'll see that it's okay to tell the truth about what is happening with contracting in Prince George's County. Anybody there? Joe, you there?
I'm here, of course.
Oh,
I
okay.
think Quandra might have got disconnected on her phone.
Yeah.
But no, you couldn't have said it any better. But I think that what we're putting in place, and we've been working on this for about 3 or 4 months now, to do our real official launch of this, and to have the lieutenant governor and then the governor come on board, and then to constantly do this, we'll make a change. They're going to be forced to make a change, and we will no longer have individuals who will stand up and block individuals from participating. That's what's happening, or being paid to keep real legitimate businesses out of procurement contracts. And that's what we basically have taken place here. And companies like Patricia's and others who've been through a process to try to participate should not have to fight through this door, this to all this difficulty in order to get a contract. It's unfair, and for a prominent African American county like Prince George County with all the black elected leadership, it's a travesty that these individuals will not stand up and fight for minority business people. Instead, they hide, and they are on the take. Some of them for little or nothing. They've gone to jail, and we've seen it on the cannabis route too, as well. Along the way, where money influences certain people, and they the other way. And then on other cases, we've seen promises of political favors that influence some people. Well, whatever it is, as you said, and you said, well, it's got to come to an end, and we're going to make sure it comes to an end.
Okay, so on that, so I'm sorry that I'm not on camera, but I am in the worst Wi-Fi internet connection I've ever been in my entire show. Miss Plummer, I invite you. I will, if you would like, I can invite you to come back when we are talking with the Lieutenant Governor, if you would like. Okay. And Mr. Branch, as always, you are straight to the point, with no drama, and I appreciate that. Mr. Gaskins, and as well as Lisa, who must be having the same difficulties that I am. I want to thank you for coming on to the show. I also would like to thank Donnie Glover for allowing me to have two shows. One is this Political Cipher with Q on Wednesday nights at 7, but also Community Connections, Resources, and Gardening, because I am an avid gardener, on Saturdays at 9 a.m. And if anyone would like to be on that show, you are more than welcome. Please like and share. And on that note, Mr. Gaskins, I want you to let us lead us out on some reflections, on some calls to actions. For me, who is in the process of becoming a business owner, I look at you guys and I esteem you with everything I can give you, because it is a hard journey, especially in Baltimore City. So, Joe, lead us out
No,
with some call to actions.
Yeah, I want to say this, Quandra, Chris, because it only comes every 2 or 4 years. For those who are knowledgeable and know the importance of voting, to get out and vote. Early voting starts tomorrow.
Yes, it does.
Yes, go to your precincts and vote. do as I do, vote for the governor on the Democratic ticket, Wes Moore. It would be devastating if he lost the race. He's projected to win at a pretty wide margin, but he can't win if voters don't show up and vote. Come on out and do that, and vote for candidates that can help you. Do your research on your candidates so you know who they are. Hopefully, not hopefully, by the time we deal with this on the next election, we'll have a list that we're going to tell you who not to vote and a report card on who's not going to be good. But in the meantime, show up. Early voting from tomorrow to the 27th, and then on the 8th of November for Election Day.
Oh yes, and then at the same time, there's going to be same day registration on election day, so there really is no excuse. Also, if you would check out on a weekly basis, there are shows that are actually educating and picking apart the ballot, especially with the cannabis, the term limitations, the term limits that are being asked for. That's so much to do in so little time. So on that note, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for being a panelist. And on that note, thank you for joining Political Cipher with Q. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.